has been decimated by Russia, and the onslaught continues. Here's CTV's Heather Butts.
The war is moving east with a vengeance. Ukrainian officials urging people to leave immediately if they still can. Today, a plea for help from inside the besieged city of Mariupol as Ukrainian soldiers ignore another deadline set by Russia to surrender. The commander of Ukrainian forces saying they are outnumbered 10-1, asking the international community for help to be evacuated. He claims 500 wounded soldiers are sheltering in the Azovstal steel plant with hundreds of women and children.
This is a big concern for us, that these civilians are really as a hostage of this war.
The Ukrainian brigade base there released this video of families hunkered down in the plant. The Russians say it's fake. There are no families hiding in bunkers. Key to controlling the east is the capture of Mariupol, the strategic port city.
We have to defend Mariupol as much as possible, as long as possible, because it's crucial.
Its capture would give Russia a belt of control, linking territory held by pro-Russian separatists in the east with the Crimea region. Leaders inside the war-torn country say they are working on an evacuation plan, but are pleading for more Western firepower. Canada has committed to sending weapons, but the Prime Minister won't make the details public.
I think people understand that delivery of military equipment in the context of an illegal war by Russia is something that we have to be a little bit careful about what we broadcast and publicize and what we're doing.
As the conflict intensifies, the United Nations says more than 5 million people have now fled Ukraine since the invasion began. Half of the refugees are children. Nearly 141,000 Ukrainians have applied to Canada's emergency travel program. More than 54,000 have been approved. Heather Butts, CTV News, Toronto.
Joining us to talk is Mark Savchuk. He's a member of the Ukrainian Volunteer Journalist Initiative. He joined us tonight from Kyiv. Thanks for your time tonight.
Thank you.
Any idea of how many of the Ukrainian forces, members of the Ukrainian forces, are left in Mariupol, and how are they even surviving there?
Yes, there are several hundred of them still alive and fighting, as you see, several hundred wounded. They are basically hiding inside a big plant of Azovstal. I know exactly where this is because this is the town I was born in and was raised in. I know exactly where they are, and as we see from the footage, there are lots of civilians. And unfortunately, Russians are using incredibly powerful bombs. All they want is just to completely obliterate the plant and anyone who is inside it.
So these forces who are surviving there, the hundreds you mentioned, are they armed? Are they able? Do they have access to get out?
Obviously, the answer is no. So for them, unfortunately, the fate will be quite sad. And actually, this is one of the messages that we try to send to the West. Like, look, guys, these 20,000 people that were murdered in Mariupol, they didn't have to die. All we are asking is just guns that we can, use to fight Russia, heavy weapons, as Mr. Zelensky has said. And he even created a very detailed video explaining what exactly the Ukrainian army needs. And despite the reaction from the West, which they will give us that eventually, the question is time. I mean, it has to be here right now, and we can't afford to wait another month. We just can't.
We know that the Americans have said they've sent something like 5 or 6 airplanes full of aid for Ukraine in just recent days. They've got another 5 or 6 to come. Are you seeing some restocking of what's needed? And has anybody answered the question from the folks in Mariupol about trying to save them specifically?
Look, this is very important to understand the correct context of this war. It is insane in size. 5 or 6 airplanes are not going to do anything when you're fighting about 100,000 people. You have to understand the size and the scale of this war. We have destroyed 800 tanks in the past month and a half. This is about 4 times as much as Germany has at all, like the whole army. The size of this war is insane. So what we're trying to explain to the West is that the help to Ukraine has to be more. It has to be more in size in order for us to be able to actually push them back. It will not be even possible for us to get to Mariupol, because in order to do that, we need like several hundred pieces of artillery and about 300 tanks to do that. This is quite a lot of help, that's for sure. But then again, we're talking about a huge humanitarian crisis. As you said, there is already 5 million or even more refugees. And if we're not going to go get those weapons, there will be 5 million more and another 20,000 people dead. Is that really a price to pay for not sending weapons? I think it's just not a correct decision to do.
Mark, can you also give me an update on the offensive in the other parts of the Donbass?
Yes, sure, I can do that. They are trying to encircle the GFO area. This is the line that was like between Ukraine and DNR, LNR, so-called republics. They're trying to encircle our armies there because there is a high concentration of Ukrainian forces. They really, really want to get Mariupol because this will free some forces that they can use to try to encircle from south and north. So this is what they're trying to do. So far, they failed. But as I said, like Ukraine desperately needs heavy weapons. Ukraine desperately needs supplies. And if we're going to get them, we will make the invasion stop. We'll basically bleed their army dry. So that's what's going to happen. This is why we constantly ask West for more weapons, because this will eventually lead to the end of the war.
Mark Savchuk, nothing would make people happier than to see an end to this war. I hope you know and understand that, and I hope things are coming your way to the aid of your forces. Thank you for joining us and giving us a greater idea of what's going on.
Thank you.
More